This is Rob.
This is Brian.
This is Eric.
Yeah, I mean, it's always one of those things where within the production meetings that you have with all the different department heads that you talk about things like, okay, well, I need a facility to work in to do this. I need water and power. I need
Light.
Yeah, all these things, in order to do this stuff that we do. Because a lot of that stuff, people just don't think about it all the time. They don't realize what it takes to do all the stuff that we do. It's just kind of one of these things where they just expect you sometimes to just kind of show up and be able to oh, we're just going to throw this on like a shirt, and it's going to take a couple minutes,
Right.
Or even if they do know how it works, they don't know the extent of it and everything, where it's like, well, you're just going to glue this down, so you don't need like power, right? You don't need drills and stuff like that or whatever. And it's like, no, we need power and lights and hair dryers
and level makeup trailers that aren't in loose sand.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had a level trailer before. Like most of the trailers I've ever been in, it bounced around quite a bit.
Oof.
But I'm not working on multi-million-dollar movies, so.
Right.
So it's like sometimes I'm lucky if I'm not working out of the trunk of my car. For the most part, I mean, we make it work. I mean, there's been times where it's like you don't have a facility to work in. Like, oh my God, there was like when we were doing the Werebear segment for Chillerama, we were literally working on park benches.
Ugh.
With no power.
Oh my goodness.
We had nothing to work with because it was just like, oh, we're at a beach. There's nothing around to do anything. It's like, yeah, they got generators for, all the camera equipment and everything like that, but there's no way of running a stinger from way over there in the sand to where we were at the base camp. It was just like, the sun's coming down at the end of the day and we're trying to get all these prosthetics off of the actors and we're turning on car lights, the headlights on our cars to just get the light just to clean these guys up and everything like that. And it was just like, oh my God, like it was insane. But I mean, we powered through it and got it done and we weren't happy about it. But sometimes like this is part of that job. You just like, no matter what, you just got to make it work and got to finish it and get it done and then walk away.
Yeah, shit happens. We were on location down in Mexico in Baja for Fear of the Walking Dead, and we were in a really cool location, and we got hit with torrential downpour. And this was after we got all those zombie actors and everybody into their makeups for the day. And then this torrential downpour just happened and it wasn't letting up. And all of a sudden we got evacuation order where we had to get off the mountain and out of the canyon, or else we would have been stuck there all night. And so they just packed everybody up and got us off of the mountain. And I can remember being in a van with all the stunt players, and the stunt gals were screaming because of the ground was giving way underneath the
oh my God,
the van, and they were screaming. I'm like, well, these are stunt players, they're freaking out, this is not good. But we basically grabbed whatever we could as far as makeup removers and cleanup stuff and threw it into buckets and bags and left everything else in the trailers, and got back to the hotel. And I went up to management of the hotel and said, hey, do you have a banquet room or something that we can use to take all our, because we got there first. And so I arranged with the hotel to get a banquet room for us set up so that we would at least have an area to take everybody's makeups off. And they were very obliging and actually had already started taking in people from the surrounding neighborhood that were going to need shelter as well. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty freaking serious. So we were very fortunate to get off of that mountain before we got trapped, or worse, because that place would flood. Pretty bad.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. One thing I learned about zombie shows, and maybe you've experienced too, that you never have as many people to take out of the makeup as you do to put in, because people go home with it.
Oh.
How many people went home with makeups on Walking Dead?
None that I remember, because we had a big cleanup situation going, and they were all the locals that were the background zombies and stuff were actually very good in the makeup chairs. They were very cooperative and very nice, and remember asking one day, I was like, wow, you guys are all so nice and patient and polite and all that. And they said, well, we have to be or else they'll fire us. They threatened us. They said, if we don't behave, they'll fire us. And we wanted to keep making this. So
Wow.
I was like, oh, okay, well, that works.
When same movie Chillerama, when we're doing the zombie movie sequences with all the different zombies in there, we had to do around probably about 50 zombies that were running around this drive-in movie theater. And we had a whole freaking assembly line going on with the zombies to get them done. They'd keep jumping from station to station depending on, someone would put the prosthetics on them, someone would base them out in color, and then the last person would go and just detail it and stuff, and then they'd go out the other side of the trailer. But we started off with 50, and then at the end of the night we took out maybe 12 people.
Because everybody went home with all that stuff on.
Yeah, it was just like, we're out there shooting, and then at a certain point in time, every now and then a guy would just kind of be like, I'm just going to go home. I can take this off myself.
Yeah,
And
good luck.
they'd go and, I mean, they're foam latex appliances, so it's like, one-time use for those things. But all right, he literally made our job a hell of a lot easier at this point.
All right.
Now, for Walking Dead, were the background guys actually showing up in makeup? Did some of them show up in makeup? Because I've heard that some of the background players in some of the other productions were already showing up in their own makeup.
That was something that I heard too for the actual Walking Dead TV series that was being filmed in Atlanta or whatever. But for Fear the Walking Dead, no. We were, the makeup department was responsible for the look of all of those infected, which was never as extreme as the Walking Dead TV series stuff because it was supposedly an earlier timeline before the infected became zombies, for lack of better and copyrighted terminology that we're not supposed to use. But yeah, so the look of the Fear the Walking Dead infected was a lot more subtle than the extreme zombie stuff going on with the big TV series.
So now you got those people going through. How many people are you being responsible for going through your chair?
For Fear the Walking Dead, we had 3 or 4 different stages of zombies, undead or infected. Sorry, I keep using the wrong terminology there.
Zombies fine.
And so like a stage 1 would be very subtle paint work. So that this person just got infected or whatever. And then a stage 2 would be a little more extreme with very subtle Bondo transfer, cheekbones or temple bones or wounds or something of that nature. And then a stage 3 would be more extreme, again still staying with Bondo transfers and wounds, open wounds and stuff. And then a stage 4 would be much heavier prosthetics and maybe even headpieces, things of that nature. So like a stage 1 would be like a 15-minute makeup, whereas a stage 2 would be a 30-minute makeup, and a stage 3 would be 45 minutes to an hour, and then the stage 4 would be within 2 hours, usually an hour and a half. And that being said, there were, on big days, we had 2 trailers, so 12 makeup artists, and each of us would be responsible between 10 and I want to say 20, especially if you're only spending 15 minutes on some of the low end ones. You're cranking 4 of them out in an hour, just cycling them through. So yeah, I'd want to say that if I'm remembering correctly, it would have been per person, anywhere from 10 to 20 per day, depending on which particular day it was.
And were you guys doing principals and background?
Yeah. All of the zombies all came through the K&B trailers that Dave Dupuy and Gabe DeCunto were heading up.
It's like, it's one of the reasons why I never really throw out zombie molds.
Yeah,
they
you never know
always
when
come
you're
back.
gonna need them. Like I just did that Skechers commercial last summer. There we go, more zombies.
Yeah, you can use those zombie molds. Great for scars or whatever. You can use them for anything.
Yeah, they're pretty versatile. I mean, like you can use them for demons, you can use them for zombies, you can use them for, depending, you can be like vampires even or whatever. It's like a zombie mold, just give it a different color and it's fine.
Yeah. cool. What about any other happy accidents come to mind?
I can't think of anything at the moment, but I know that they're like fucking working over at John's shop. Every day was a happy accident of some kind. But oof, man. So okay, let me ask you this, and I'll back it up with a story that we had one time. Have you ever had something that you thought was going to go right, but did not, and you couldn't use it whatsoever?
Not so much couldn't use it, because you always end up MacGyvering stuff. And we're talking about that Shadow of Death movie again. We did an electrocution effect that was actually done on Anthony Perkins' photo double, because it was all heavy prosthetics, and it would be intercut with Anthony's actual electrocution scene. And one of the elements for that, they wanted to see his fingertips split open from the electrocution. And I'm like, I was working at Stan Winston Studios at the time, so I was pulling this off on weekends and after work at night. And I had a fake hand that I had rigged with balloons in the fingertips as bladders, so when the air was pumped into those bladders, it would split the ends of the fingers apart, and the fingernail would lift up, and then the blood tubes would start spewing blood out. And I want to say that we even had smoke tubes as well, so you saw smoke, you saw blood, and you saw the fingers split apart. And we had done numerous tests with it back in the workshop beforehand, and everything looked like it was going to work fine for that split second you were going to see it on film. And then we got on set to do it and got everything strapped in, and we were all set, primed and ready to roll, and nothing was happening. And we're like, son of a bitch, what's going on? And it turned out that whoever had taped all the tubing to the chair that the fake arm was sitting in, taped it too tight, so it constricted all the tubing, so no air or blood or smoke could come through it. And you're like, egg on the face. We know this works. We tested this and all that. And it took a moment to figure it out and then start all over. But in the meantime, you got a whole production sitting there going, why isn't your shit working? And then you realize that it's because somebody helping you out gorilla'd it a little bit too much.
Oh my god. We had when I was over at John's shop, we were working on a movie called Blood Surf, which is a giant crocodile movie on the heels of Lake Placid back in that time, when everyone wanted to make a giant crocodile.
Right.
One of the elements that we needed to make was a giant tail of this crocodile, so they can have it hit people or kind of squirm around in the water or whatever it was they needed to do. John was like, we should make this thing out of silicone, this giant tail. We're gonna have this thing sculpted, and I think someone foam fabricated it, and then we molded it. It was this giant tail, but he wanted it to be able to go in the water and move around and stuff.
So silicone was the choice.
It's like, okay, well, we're gonna put a skin on it. We're gonna skin the mold with silicone and then back it with a reticulated foam, Scott foam. John had bought 5-gallon kits of silicone, and he wanted to use that all in the tail. And it was the tail was at least 10 feet long. He's like, okay, so we'll skin it with this, and then we'll put the reticulated foam in it, and then put a big piece of PVC pipe in there so we can move it around. We're just kind of looking at the 5-gallon buckets sitting there going that's all going into this tail? Yeah, no, it'll be fine. And once it gets in the water, it'll be nice and buoyant and all these things. And we're just like, John, I don't know if this is going to work. And everyone was literally going I don't know if this is going to work. And John's like, no, trust me, it's going to be fine. We're going to put it in the water, and then we'll move it around, and the water will get inside there, and it'll be completely fine.
I'd have to stop you right there, because a 5-gallon bucket of silicone, just the base component itself, weighs what, 70 pounds?
Yeah. All right. So John was like, no, it's gonna be fine. So we go to do it, and it's I got my little brother hired on for a couple days, and his only job was to go in there and paint in layers of silicone, just brush in different layers of silicone to get a certain thickness on it. And we got a 2-inch thickness.
Oh, jeez.
On the whole thing, because we're like, okay, well, we got a 1/2 inch here, and John's like, no, it should be thicker. It needs to be durable. It needs all this. Okay, cool. So it got up to about a good 2 inches of thickness on this thing. And mind you, it's a 10-foot mold. We packed in all the reticulating foam in there and put in a final layer of silicone and squished it all down, jammed a pipe in there, whatever way that we did that in. We're talking about a a 4-inch piece of PVC pipe that went inside this thing, and closed the mold up and prayed. Next day, everything was fine. Mold cured. It took us hours to demold it.
Why is that?
Because it was just a 2-piece mold, the giant 2-piece mold. It just gripped it like no one's business.
Oh.
And plus with the PVC pole inside there and everything, it wasn't like you can kind of peel it out or anything like that. It had to come out in a certain way. And so by the time we got it out of the mold, no one could lift this thing. It was just, we're grabbing it by the pole. There was like maybe about 5 feet of PVC pole sticking out of the tail. We're holding it to our waist and it's drooping down to the floor and flattening back out.
Oh boy.
That's how much weight was on this thing. And we're trying, we had 3 guys trying to move this thing and lift it up, and it wouldn't do anything. It was just so heavy. We're like, all right, well, when John comes in, we'll let him take a look at it. And this is a grand idea. John comes in, he's like, oh, the tail's out. Let's see. And he goes to try and lift it. And he's like, huh. And then he starts fidgeting with it a little bit, and then tries to pick it up as much as he can, and then lets it slam on the ground. He's like, this is a $5,000 piece of shit.
Oh.
It's like,
now, why did John think that silicone, 5-gallon things of silicone, was going to be light and buoyant?
Well, he figured that John's done a bunch of stuff in the water, and he's good at what he does and knows how to do things. The sheer magnitude of what it was that we were building, and the fact that he was like, he kind of wanted this to survive for a bunch of different shots that it was going to be used in. The whole thing is that once this thing comes out of the water, then you stand it up and all the water drains out of it, because the reticulating foam, it's so porous that the water just falls out and doesn't hold anything. But at the same time, the silicone needed to be thick enough in order to keep its shape. So, I mean, there's definitely a lot of logic behind what he wanted to do, but at the same time, it was just like, it works for smaller things.
Did that tail end up in the shop just hanging somewhere? Or do you guys destroy it?
From what I understand, that tail was sitting underneath a shop table for the longest time. While we were shooting hatchets, one of the guys was slowly chopping it up and just taking pieces off of it and throwing it away, because John was like, hang on to it, we might be able to use it for something else in a couple decades or so, I don't know. But the one guy in the shop was just like, we're never going to use this, and just decided to start shrinking it down little by little. I'm sure at some point in time, well, honestly, John probably never fucking noticed that thing was gone after a while. He probably never thought about it again.